Beijing has a population of 20.6 million people. It's China's second largest city, but it's in an area that's actually a little bigger than the state of Connecticut. The city center population is somewhere between 13 and 17 million people.
Beijing has added about 7 million people to its population over the last decade, or since about the year 2000. That has meant an incredible demand on its traffic, its transportation network, other resources in the city. This segment shows some of that traffic and transportation and other development in the city. It's really quite interesting to see how dynamic the change is and the scale on which it's happening.
In part, we're seeing a kingdom of bicycles transform itself to a kingdom of automobiles. It's the largest manufacturing and sale market in the world, having overtaken the US several years ago. Beijing itself used to have 2 million cars on the road, and now the number is 5 million over just the past decade. They were adding them at a rate of about 1,000 per day until 2010. The city had to impose a lottery system so that only if you win can you put a car on the road, and there are 1 million people in the waiting list for those licenses.
At the same time, of course, there are a lot of new drivers and vehicles on the roads, and that means that traffic has gotten much worse in Beijing and in other large cities in China. It's often compared with Cairo, Egypt, and Mexico City, Mexico, and is now said to be the worst in the entire world.
Some traffic jams in the suburban areas last year, in fact, exceeded 7 to 9 days of time on highways and access roads that simply couldn't move at all. Separately, transportation, of course, has other options for people. Beijing has a large and expanding subway system. It carries about 8 million people per day. It adds new lines quite frequently. It's clean, it's fast. It would be the envy of many U.S. cities. But at the same time, it can get very crowded. Rush hours are particularly difficult to be on a Chinese subway system. China is also building out a massive high-speed rail network and the completion of a nationwide rail network that exceeds the pace of building that's ever been seen anywhere on the earth. It includes, of course, the vaunted high-speed rail. This one we took was 182 miles per hour. Very easy to bear the speed and enjoy the view. Looking outside of the trains, you can see some of the suburban or ex-urban development of additional housing being built here in Beijing.
The unprecedented and massive building boom in China over the last decade has also been extraordinary, and construction cranes can still be seen throughout China's cities. At the same time, the government plans are for 400 million more rural residents to move to cities over the next decade, so the building boom is definitely going to continue for some time to come.
It's perhaps an architect's paradise, although there are certainly instances of copied architecture and some instances of buildings that some might see as unusual or strange or perhaps even ugly. One thing to notice in all of the pictures is big. Chinese government ministries and state-owned corporations have a definite preference for giant, imposing headquarters buildings. A couple that you can see in Beijing deserve special mention. The National Theater, which is known locally as the Egg, is really a spectacular building. It's often quite dusty, but it's unusually clean in these pictures because next door at the Great Hall of the People, the G-Hop, the National People's Congress is in session, and so all of Beijing has been specially cleaned up under good administration. Another building worthy of mention is the CCTV Media Center. It's a giant black glass structure that almost looks like a pair of legs. That might explain why local people refer to it as the Big Underpants. It hasn't yet been occupied despite being nearly completed in 2009. A fireworks fire for an illegal fireworks display at Chinese New Year consumed the building next door and has prevented it from being used as yet.